Selamun alaikum. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of my show called Women in Action. Today, we are joined by Qaanitah Hunter, a renowned journalist in South Africa. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. We've been speaking about coming on the show for a
Yes.
long time, and I'm so glad that I'm here today.
I'm so happy also. I feel like, a journalist being interviewed this time. It must feel weird,
It's very, very
You
weird.
normally, you
Yes.
would be on this side
And also,
interviewing people.
and also to talk about your life, we're not used to that at all.
Correct.
We are the ones extracting information from people.
Yes. Now that role is mine. I will try to extract as much as possible, even though I know you don't like to talk about yourself. But this is the idea of my show, Women in Action, bringing to the show prominent women who are definitely accomplished and successful in their own right, in their own spaces and areas. The idea is, though, to learn about the person behind that title, that role, whatever that woman is taking up the space with, and then also to see what kind of messages other women, girls especially, can take out of it, how to inspire people in general, not necessarily only women, and also to see how these women on my show contribute to life in general and to South Africa, what they are most passionate about. This is what I want to extract from you today. You are an award-winning journalist. You had different awards in 2016, 2017, 2019, 2022. You are so young, and already in the past 15 years of your career, you won awards for brave journalism with your career. And actually, I met you at the Congress of Business and Economics, CBE, event, where they were awarding prominent women for Women's Month, and you got one of those awards. You had a recognition for your work in South Africa. It's very important. And you have written 5 books and contributed to one. I want to first talk about your books. Very interested. One of them is here. This is the latest one. Why Am I Like This? It's another fiction that you have written this year, and I want to go to the book launch on the 4th of November, inshallah, in Rosebank, exclusive books in Rosebank. But you have written books like this. Let me tell you about the ones that I'm interested in. Women Journalists in South Africa, published in 2022. A book on the rise of President Ramaphosa, published in 2019.
That was my first political book that I had written. I had traveled with the president for a long time. I had followed Ramaphosa from when he was deputy president all the way till he was president, and then wrote about his ascension and what it meant for the country at the time. So that was my first politics book. And then all of these years later, I'm now doing fiction again.
Who Will Rule South Africa? I actually bought that book. I did not know you then. We had not met. That was published in October 2023.
Yes, ahead of the elections in 2020.
Correct. And that was a time when we were all confused and we didn't know where it would go, the voting and everything. I would have this book with me in cafes and stuff, and people would ask me, so who will rule South Africa? People who didn't know me.
Yes.
Look, they would come and ask me from the title of the book, so did you find out who will win the elections in South Africa? That was very interesting. That was very informative. You, I think you wrote it with Adrian Basso?
Yes, my editor at the time. And that book was simply to take account of the 30 years that got to South Africa at that point and what that meant for the electoral journey. South Africa was at the precipice of a massive change, and now we are very well within the GNU and the Government of National Unity. And so that change from one party government to a coalition was an important one. And I remember when we were talking about it, there were some people that would assume that we were talking nonsense because, like, the ANC will never be voted out of power. And I mean, that's just what has happened. So with books, it's an interesting thing because it's an extension of my journalism, but it's also a time for me to pause, reflect, and think about some of the big ideas that I have. So with journalism, it's quick, it's fast paced. You don't often have time to sit and reflect and to take in and analyze. And so with writing a book, you can almost piece things together. And remember, the luxury of what we do is that we have a front row seat to history in the making. We fully are, privileged in that way, that we see things that many other people don't. So what you end up getting is a 500-word article or a 2-minute video clip. But we sit through these hours and hours and hours. And I had obviously covered politics in South Africa from the time I was 17 years old.
17.
Yes.
Wow.
And so sometimes at the moment I just feel like I want to avoid anything to do with politics, but I'm not the only one. There's so many South Africans that are really, really tired about the toxicity that exists in our political domain. And sometimes I think, okay, if I feel like I want to disengage, that it's very, very scary, because if we have a disengaged audience, if we have a disengaged citizen, then politicians and powerful people will just do whatever they want. So with the writing of the books, I always, my dream in life is always to write fiction, right?
Wow.
So when I was 19 or 18, 19, I used to take a taxi, those minibus taxis from Joburg to Midrand.
Yes.
And I used to wear the hijab, and they would call me Mzege Zege, the taxi drivers, because there's a singer in South Africa who covers his face, and his name is Mzege Zege, so they would call me that. And I would sit in front of a taxi, and anyone who would use a taxi would know that it takes you ages to get anywhere. Like, you have to wait for the taxi to get full. So I would sit in the front, and I had this little mini iPad, and I would write the story of this girl. Her name was Aisha, and Amina, and her friend was Aisha, and I would tell her story, of this Guji girl, and she would come to university, and we were very young. And how I started writing fiction was that I would write stories and send them to my now late mother, and she would get so vested, and we'd laugh about it, and we'd just make up these stories. And I started putting it on a blog, and it became a mass hit.
Wow.
People would stop me in Rosebank to say, when is the next one coming out?
Which year was it?
This was 2013 or 2012.
Wow.
2012, 2013.
Okay.
I was very young.
Yes.
It was full of errors. It was not good writing at all. And then a publisher at the time said, let's publish it and make it into a book. And it did really, really, really well. But I was so committed to being a serious political journalist. So I said, no. I'm not going to focus on this. I'm going to focus on my career. I'm going to, and I had set goals for myself. So I was like 19, and I said, okay, once I achieve these goals, then I can go back and start writing fiction again. So I thought it'll take me 20 or 30 years. I had a very long list and very specific list of goals to do. And then I had one of the biggest goals that on that list was to write a best-selling political book. And I did that. We wrote a best-selling political book.
Which one was that?
So 8 Days in July was a bestseller, and Why Am I Like This was a bestseller. Not Why Am I Like This. Who Will Rule South Africa was a bestseller, yeah. And it was amazing, and the feedback has been amazing over the years. And it is a luxury for journalists to be. It's hard work to sit and write the books while you're still having you can't take time off work. You can't take, and I've always been studying simultaneously to my work. And last year I had resigned from my job as assistant editor of News 24 for politics and opinion. And I said, okay, what are all the things that I want to do that I always said I wanted to do? And that list was everything from paragliding to, taking a boat on the Bosphorus to writing a book. And so now I'm back at fiction. And it's very weird because people only know me from a very serious political journalist. And then I write a story about Farah Garda and her drama in her life.
Let me show this once again.
But it really was a moment for me to just embrace all of who I am, because there's so many different parts of who we are, right?
Yes.
There's so many different parts of who I am, and this book was a culmination of all of that, and also, I mean, not biographical in any way, but also personal in that there had been a lot that I had been going through in my life, and I needed an outlet to channel that grief and emotions, and so this is how this story
Wow.
was born.
That's so interesting. We were taught, because I'm much older than you,
Yeah.
during our generation, I think, we were taught that you can only be
One
one
thing.
thing. You can have one career. You're a diplomat, finished. You can't have all these things. You can't be a journalist, an author, an activist, blah, blah, blah. You know, all these other roles and titles. Now I see the Generation Z, for instance.
Yeah.
They are so versatile and they are so freely navigating between different roles and spaces. We are not used to that. We thought that there's one career and there are your hobbies. No, you can make your hobbies a career as well.
Yeah, and you can reinvent yourself, and I think
Reinvent, yes.
it's the I think it's the amazing thing about also being in South Africa, where there's no sort of limitation of what it is that you can be. I mean, from a practical point of view,
freedom.
Yes, and that you know, I always say there's not a moment that I take for granted that as a Muslim woman who's visibly Muslim in hijab, I'm not recognized in the sense that I'm only here because I'm a Muslim woman. It's secondary. I'm a good journalist and I happen to be a Muslim. So that opportunity to be able to delve into your craft, to be good at what you do, despite who you are, is an amazing thing and something that I don't take for granted.
This is called living up to your potential.
And
I think you are doing that still, you know, like you are living up to your potential.
But I also don't think it's possible without like the village that carries me. And I think about it, right? I was 19 years old. I didn't grow up in a wealthy family. I took a bus to Joburg when I was 17 years old to try to become a journalist. You know, I earned very, very little money. And yet there were people around me willing to mentor me, willing to take the risk. I mean, why would you publish a 19-year-old firstly? You know? And so now when I'm in a different position, I'm reflecting about the importance of now being on the other side and helping people that have come like that now in a position of privilege and influence. Because I think about half the things that I've done in my life, like just it's small things. For example, there was a lady who would cook and drop off food for me. And you know, I was earning so little money that 2-minute noodles was what I lived on, you know, and that meal meant so much for me. Or there was people in my life that would give me a lift back from the studio because it was late and I was relying on public transport.
Your angels along the way. We're all
Absolutely.
uplifted by, you know, angels, recognized
Yeah.
or unrecognized.
Absolutely. And it's and sometimes, you know, the temptation to say, I did this, I wrote all these books, so I you know, whatever, that temptation for the ego to, you think about it and you say, we are product of the village around us.
It's Ubuntu.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you are because of all those other people.
Of all those other people. And I'm in a very weird space now where I'm thinking, how can I be that person to so many women? I'm not so cared about the men.
No problem, me neither. Okay.
But like you meet, I mean, you teach at universities, you meet brilliant women, and you look at them and you say, all you need is a little hand holding, a little bit of hand holding, and you will fly. And I think about the people who had no incentive. Who was I? I was this little girl who used to chase after the president, you know, and people who had the foresight or the kindness even to just say, hey, let me teach you. And I think that that's something that I'm immensely grateful for. And as I think about what comes next for me in my life,
yes,
I'm very much that takes up a lot of my mind.
Yes, so there comes a time in our lives after we build ourselves, I think there comes a time when we feel the need to pay it forward, not pay it back, pay it forward. Meaning we were uplifted, we built ourselves, we are here. Now is the time to contribute. For instance, in my 50s, now I am at that stage. all I can think of is service.
Hmm.
But before, maybe 10 years ago, I wasn't there. I wasn't thinking about that. I had still all these aspirations, I had those goals. Now it's at this stage, and you are coming to that stage so fast.
But it's
really,
you think it's like a selfless thing, but it's actually quite selfish because we benefit so much from helping people.
yeah.
It's like I think about it. It's so
Gratification, yes.
gratifying, and it really is. Um, I don't know about you, but teaching is such an important thing for me. I love it. There's something really thrilling
And you
about
do
teaching.
media training.
Yes. So my
Maybe you should train me first of all. This is so
I
amateurish.
have nothing to train you on, but to take young journalists and I remember the hunger that I had, and I would learn from an empty cup if I had to, that's how hungry I was, and I realized that when you have a priority list, you know what our schedules look like. It's terrible, but to just be intentional about that paying it forward. And
Correct.
I mean, last year I'd spoken publicly about this. I'd suffered from enormous amount of burnout because last year, and that's why I had left my job at News 24, and I was very open about the fact that I was suffering from extreme burnout. But I had been through a 5-year process of my life where if you saw me in my career, it was high. But in my personal life, I had lost my mother. I had lost in a 5-year period.
In those 5 years?
In 5 years, I had lost my mother. I had lost my father. I had lost a child. I had gotten divorced. I had lost all my savings. It's like,
oh my God,
any bad thing that you can imagine to happen. But and I was talking about this yesterday to say it almost felt schizophrenic in some way, where there's all of these amazing good opportunities happening to me. I was on this plane and that show and that thing and that book and that award, right? But at the same time, your life, it feels like the earth is swallowing you in.
of course.
But then there was this contradiction of like, because of the good, do you have to, is it ingratitude to then focus the attention on the bad? But the bad is really bad. And so
That's your reality.
It's my reality, but it was such a contradiction because and then you also don't want to be a fake person, right?
Right. You want to be authentic.
You want to be authentic.
Yeah.
But now, if you talk about what's happening bad in your life, it seems like you're being ungrateful for all of the good that you're doing. And it's something that I haven't really figured out how to navigate, where best believe this will be going amazing in my life and this will be completely failing in my life.
No. Maybe you were good at separating your professional life from your private life. Keep it to yourself, and that's where integrity lies. It's not. I don't think it's schizophrenic or anything.
Yeah.
It's the integrity, keeping it all together.
But we're human at the end of the day, and it's hard.
Then comes the burnout or something mental.
And that's why I've been quite vocal about mental health. And part of writing this book was to take that experience. This is not my story, but to take my experience with that grief. I said to someone that it almost felt like if you cut me open, there was grief running through my body, and I didn't know what to do with it, right? And the thing about grief is that if you don't face it, it will face you.
Yes.
And I just never had the inclination to just sit down and grieve like a normal person.
You didn't have time, probably.
Absolutely not. And maybe in retrospect it was silly. I should have made the time to just sit and pause and go through what it is that I was going through. And so now after taking that pause, you realize that nothing is going to run away. You are exactly where you need to be when you need to be there. And Allah is
a big revelation, though. It's very hard to get to that point.
But because we're chasing, right?
Yeah, we're chasing time. We are chasing places.
Yeah.
Opportunities. We think that we lose them. Yeah. And you feel like opportunities will never come back again, and you chase time, you change spaces. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's academia. It's even the chasing happens in good intentions, right? Whether it's philanthropy, whether it's in trying to make a difference. And then you have to realize that energy is like almost finite, and you have to decide that you cannot give all of yourself in every part of your life all the time.
Yeah.
And so I am very, very comfortable now that when you see me excelling in one area of my life, best believe I'm failing in another area of my life, and that's okay.
Yeah. So it is actually writing this book this time, going back to fiction, has been, I think, therapeutic for you
100%.
because even therapists always say, you know, in that process of therapy, write it down, keep a
Yes.
journal,
Yes.
write it,
I
get
have
it
been
out of your system. So that's what
absolutely,
you did.
absolutely, and I've been a huge advocate for journaling. There's something called the morning pages. Have you read a book? I'm forgetting the author's name now. It's called The Artist's Way. It's something that you like. I will buy you a copy.
I should. Thank you.
So that book changed my life. It's an old book. It's not
Okay.
new. And the author talks about something called the morning pages. About every morning, just dumping. It's like a mental excretion of just whatever's
As a
on your
way of
mind.
meditation.
And exactly. And you think, as Muslims, this is something that has been taught to us a very, very long time ago. And a big part of writing and the revelations that I'd come to in writing this book, it's very humorous, nothing serious in any ways, but just to get to that layers of understanding myself, like why I like honestly, why am I like this?
Very interesting.
If I'm constantly anxious, why am I like this?
Yeah.
If I am, you know, and there's
A question we ask ourselves all the time, or we should be, you know,
yeah.
if we are in touch with ourselves deeply, we should ask that. I ask that all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes you get like funny answers, you know.
Or you don't know the answers.
Or you don't know the answers. And you know the purging that happened in this, I call it my year of yes, right, or year of madness, if you like.
Yes.
Just reckoning with, okay, I've always positioned myself as this type of person. Or I have these interests. I always said I was never a creative person. Okay, let me try painting. Oh, I was terrible at it. But to just give yourself.
But writing is creative.
Writing is creative.
That's art.
Absolutely, absolutely. But giving yourself that opportunity to just dig a little bit, to say, actually, is it really who I am, or is this the world, who the world says I am?
Correct.
And that, I think, has been the gift of my life, because I understand that it's a luxury. Not everyone has that luxury to say, I'm going to pause for a bit and figure out, do I even like who I am?
Correct. So I want to, before we close, there are so many questions I have, but so little time. The book that you wrote, 8 Days in July.
Yes.
It was very important for all of us to understand what happened in July 2021, the riots. So there was a time when I didn't even know the book was out, but the PDF copy was all over, you know, among diplomats and stuff. We all read and tried to make a sense of it. There's that achievement also. And I also want our audience to know that your career, your journalism spanned many news outlets, Mail and Guardian, Sunday Times, News 24, Al Jazeera. You're contributing to, as a freelance journalist, to Al Jazeera, Newsroom Africa, obviously. But then let's not forget to talk about Debrief the Media and Debrief Network, because one was Debrief the Media was an MPO that you established 5 years ago on mental health issues. Now I understand why you wanted to focus so much on the mental issues journalists can face. And I think we should also do one on diplomats. Mental
Absolutely.
issues we face.
I'm going to get all of you in this room and I give you guys a talk, because I think your generation, and I think it was with good intention, that you must hold it together, you must not show vulnerability, and it's unsustainable. And I think that, like, you know, I was an investigative journalist for a long time, and a lot of the work that we did is, like you mentioned, 8 Days in July was a long form journalistic project to understand what happened in that time where you had those 300 plus deaths. And it was crazy that our book was used as the authoritative version of what happened, not the government investigation, because that didn't have the access to the documents that we had. But it takes a toll on you, right?
Yes.
And so Debrief the Media is a training arm. It's getting training on resilience, but also now on innovation.
I have psychologists there. Or,
we work with a lot of psychologists, but more than that, it's journalists training journalists, because a lot of psychologists often don't understand the reality that we live. But
Correct.
debrief, the debrief network is the debrief network is an effort, like you said earlier, for me to say what is the future of journalism, and it's my time to give back. So we're training a lot of young journalists, and it's alhamdulillah an incredible opportunity, and there's a lot of collaboration that for opportunity for two of us.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. I am enjoying this conversation so much. I would like to ask you to come to another of my show. Let's do
Absolutely.
it episode 1, episode 2.
We have a lot to
Qaanitah
talk
Hunter.
about.
We have a lot to talk about. We couldn't cover half the things that I was going to ask you. So we came to unfortunately, to the end of this episode with Qaanitah Hunter, a passionate journalist who is dedicated to her career with authenticity and power in her words. Thank you so much for watching us. And let's meet at the second episode, please.
I mean,
Thank you. Shukran.